Hello and welcome to my podcast, Learn Reiki and Connect. And it's with me, Tracy Matthews. So I hope you are well and you're ready now just to tune in and just to listen to some information. Now we know that this space is really sort of helping us, each other, to connect to that light within. Because that part of us, that light, is awakening and it's remembering just within each and every one of us, information, getting a sense of who we really are. And, when we're also having our physical lives, our experiences, and sometimes life doesn't feel so good. And as much as that we have the joy and the happiness, and when things go good, it's really wonderful. But quite often there are bumps along the road, and it does take a turn, and what that looks like to us, things don't feel so good. At the end of them, there is so much growth, but when we're going through them, it's tough. So this space is to, help you to make sense of the physical life experiences. But not just that, but seeing through the lens of your soul. Because what that's going to do, enable us to really see our truth, understand why we are having particular experiences that might not feel so good, that might challenge us, so that we can really understand and translate what it all means, because there's a part of you and I that knows why we're here. And I remind us and talk about this all the time. That's the part of you that is your intuition, the higher self. The bigger me, your soul, or that internal voice. So whatever modality, wherever you've sort of brought you on your journey, whatever you identify that part, that's the bit of you that is navigating you. It's helping you in your physical life. And it's guiding us. So this is why this space, and I've put these podcasts together just to sort of really help to find out about some information that we might be going through. I work a lot with clients over the years, and I use 3 very powerful modalities. If you go on to the website at Learn Reiki and Connect, and that's at .co.uk, you will see the powerful Usui method of connecting to the light within. That's a very powerful intention, a very powerful way, and Usui realised it. That's why he left it. That was part of his soul mission, to leave that into our consciousness, so that we can always find that part and meditate. Not just meditate, but to heal aspects of ourselves. You'll also notice the Akashic Records. A lot of information about our soul. It's almost like a hidden treasure that once we become aware that we've been here before, there is really incredible information that we can find out. And we're going to touch a little bit about that on our podcast today. But you'll also notice when you go onto the website, there is the Dolores Cannon method, the QHHT, which is the quantum healing hypnosis technique. This is really an incredible, powerful hypnosis that will really help people to understand who they really are, understand their life experiences, and to be really able to sort of connect to that part and ask questions, so that it satisfies, some of the questions that we have in our lives. This part of us wants to help us. It nudges us. It directs us in our physical lives. So today we're going to be talking about a subject that you are not alone in life. Now, I will be making reference to the Akashic Records, because that is a powerful tool to understand a lot of not only the basics, but really the framework of the soul, and how before we even come here in the physical, there is just so much that has been put in place. So hence, it is remembering who we are. Not only remembering who we are, but remembering that before we came here, we asked for certain guidance at certain parts of our lives. And we're going to find out about guides. Well, who are these guides? How many guides normally are assigned to a person? And what role do these guides play? And just the support and behind the scenes, if you like, of what's referred to as the inner and outer spirit guide. Now, you might be aware of this, or you might not, because until I did my training and my work in the Akashic Records about 6 or 7 years ago, when I sort of come across this, it was incredible. I just absolutely felt so privileged to have been reminded that we do ask for assistance and we do have help, and we have put this in place so that we are not alone when we're in the physical life. So please stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Hit the subscribe button. And depending on what platform you are, I'm on YouTube and on various blog platforms and Spotify. So whatever feels right for you, find the right one. And please stay tuned, because we will be talking about various subjects. But on this one, we are talking about we are not alone in our lives. So why is this so important to know, that you're not alone in your physical life right now? Well, I think it goes to say that simple reason is that when we come into our lives, we forget. It's almost like everything's been wiped clean a little bit. We feel separated. We almost feel like alone. So what's your experience of that? It's quite interesting, because for me, there was a level of feeling separate. And then once I embarked on my spiritual journey, I started to remember and started to meet up with my angel, with my guides. And oh my goodness, I don't know how I lived life without remembering that they were there. So what has it been like for you? Have you always had a sense in life that you knew that there was just that beautiful energy? There's like an inner knowing, a sense that you're just being guided and that there is love there and that you're being looked after. How is that for you? Or did you get on to your spiritual journey and then get a sense, or maybe it was a workshop? I remember I had a workshop back in 2012, and it was a Meet Your Angel one. I mean, at that time, I did talk about this in other podcasts. At that time, I was a little bit sort of concerned about tapping into other energies and a little bit worried because of my belief system. My belief system sort of made me more concerned about demons, devils. That was my wording back there. That's not the words that I would use now, but, I sort of was, concerned and worried that I would sort of tap into something like that. So what that meant was, it was a little while before I could sort of trust and tap into my guides and then my angel. But of course, once it happened, it was not what I feared. It was beautiful. So this subject, about not being alone in our lives really matters when we don't feel so happy in life. Maybe there's a loss of a loved one. Maybe there's been a lot of changes and challenges in our physical lives, dealing with health, maybe feeling very low, struggling with depression, not feeling happy, maybe not feeling content, something's wrong, or you're not on the path, the purpose. You don't know what the path and purpose is, but you know that it's not the one that you're on now. And that can sort of really unsettle us in life. And then we feel alone. And then we don't understand, why we're even experiencing this. So, in those situations, it can feel very isolating. And then we can sort of spiral downwards if we're not conscious or if we're not aware that we've got so much put in place. And here's the thing, which I think is just so incredible, like I made reference to, and I've seen this every time I've done an Akashic record reading. I've seen it through the hypnosis, the QHHT, past life regression. I've seen it in my own records and my own regression, is that we have put so much in place, that there are these beautiful beings of spirit guides, angels, that are here, that are really helping us when we come into our physical lives. And there is so much thought and wisdom that's gone into how we're going to go about our physical lives. Even the not so good bits, when things go really downhill, that there is a way that we can, if you like, tap into that part, and our guides are always directing us, guiding us, they assist us. So there's a lot of structure that's been put in place by you as a individual, powerful soul. In your life, that was with Source, and with so many of these multi-dimensional, beautiful beings, guides, angels, and even the people around you, that in the context of the people and the family that we got here in the physical, human flesh life, once in the spirit realm, all this was taken into consideration. And that's why we're here, we're meeting up, and we are having experiences. And it's really interesting, these experiences, depending on where your belief system, for me, it was pretty much a religious belief system. So I've always had this connotation that it was sinning, that there was something always wrong with me, that I was always very imperfect. Whereas through the lens of the soul, it's not about that. It's the experiences, and they're both good and bad. It is what it is, whether we go through tough times or the good times. It's about sort of the experiences where the ones that are not so good is the ones that help us to grow. And they're the ones that when we come out the other side of it, that we feel changed. And this is why this topic is so powerful. And it helps us to understand that if right at the moment you're feeling a little lost, perhaps a little bit low, maybe there has been some not very pleasant sort of experiences going on for you at the moment. And when we don't feel happy, we feel low or a little bit off kill, this is that divine time to remember that you are not alone in this life. So let's look a little bit more in detail then about this assistance that's going to help you, that's been put in place, that you have put in place. And that's really important, that we sort of claim our power, because we get into the physical lives, and when our lives are not going so great and that we don't feel so powerful in it, we kind of end up feeling like victims. We feel pretty much like we don't have much choice, that things are a little bit out of our control, and that we're living the life, but we're not enjoying it. And this is really interesting. We'll talk about this another time, because you also have put in place a theme in your life. And we'll talk about that another time. But along with that, you have put in place what's called spirit guides. And we're just going to really sort of open up and talk a little bit about that. You might have heard inner and outer guides being mentioned. If you have, then you kind of understand a little bit what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, that's absolutely fine. We're going to talk about that now. Because it wasn't until I started my learning about the Akashic Records where I'd really found so much structure, so much is in place. You know, sometimes we feel that there are things that are just happening around us. And yes, we do have free will, but a lot of what is being put in place is divine timing, which is really incredible. So I'm going to talk firstly about what's referred to as inner guides. And then, of course, we're going to look at what's called outer guides. So inner guides, what do we actually mean by that? Well, these inner guides are a group of spirits that are assisting you. You have your own personal spirit guides, and they are exclusively assigned to you. So I'm just going to pause there, because that's a really beautiful, powerful thing. Are you aware of that? Not only have you been privy to that, you've been part of that, and maybe there might even be a sense of an emotion that you've been a little bit of consciously aware of about that. But really right now is the time for this to flood back in, to flow in, and for you to start remembering that you have personal spirit guides that are exclusively assigned to you. Now, I have seen over the years, there could be anything between 4 or 6 guides assigned to one person. I've even seen more. So these, if you like, additional guides sort of have a sort of a role where they come in and they help for a bit and they guide and then they sort of move on. So they're not sort of kind of with you all the time. So it's really quite interesting that you have put in place some of these guides that are really going to help you with very specific areas of your life. So I'm just going to sort of run through some of the ones that I've seen over the years. So, for example, there is always going to be a guide that is with you that has helped you basically be born into the physical life. So coming out of the womb and being born into a physical human body. And that guide will be with you when you go out of the physical life. So in other words, when you are born into the physical body and when you leave your physical body, when you transition, when you die. That guide is going to be there to welcome you back and to be there for you. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, whether you've been aware of that, or again, a lot of this stuff just feels like, you know, when it's at the back of the mind, but it's really beautiful, that you're just not alone, that there is a guide that has been with you right from the start, and that will be with you when you leave your physical body. Now, there are other guides that have various roles on the team. And this is really interesting because when I am reading for a person that I have no idea who they are, when their guides step forward, they are very specific as to what sort of area that they're helping a person. I have no idea. I mean, I haven't even met the person quite often when I'm doing a reading until I have the session with them. So these guides are telling me very specific things as to the area of that lives. Now, I've seen some have been assigned to help with family members, to help with their work, to help with their mental health, just to help them with their well-being. I have seen guides, roles where they've been helping them with their primary relationship that they had, that there's perhaps karma with them, they're back again. So there's a guide that is specifically helping them with that. I have seen guides help a person with their spiritual journey, that, they've been navigated to have an Akashic record reading, or to learn the Usui pathway of steadying the mind, being in control of that busy mind, the mind monkeys, using the power of intention, that powerful technique. And when they have an Akashic record reading, they're very aware that there is a guide that is assigned to them, that is just gently nudging them, helping them, so that they're able to sort of stay on track in what they said that they would come here to do. I've equally seen guides assigned to a person that is going to help them with whatever specific thing, whether it's they're here to do something, an assignment, whatever that is, because it's very broad, it's very subjective, and I have no idea about this until that guide's energy steps forward, lets that person know to remind them of what that was. And that's a very sobering, a very powerful moment. And for me, when I learnt how many guides I had 5 guides, then I had 6 guides, and each guide is helping me with each area of my life. And it's so incredible. And like we were talking when we're on the time, because when we're good and life's going good, we give gratitude, we're thankful, but we're kind of, we're just doing our thing, aren't we? It kind of means more when we start feeling a little bit low and we start feeling a little bit vulnerable, and that's when we become a little bit more pensive, a little bit more thoughtful. It's a bit disappointing sometimes. I notice it within myself. Do we only remember source and our guides when we are feeling low, or can we remember them when we're feeling good? It's just a personal thing. I want to remember them and feel just as connected when life feels good, but very much more so when we don't feel good. And that might resonate with you a little bit. But it's when we're feeling that lowness, when we're feeling that things don't feel so great, that is the time where our guides are with us anyway. But that's the time where we can reach out and connect with them. And it's very interesting when I'm speaking to people, and you might be getting that little sense now that you are aware. Sometimes you see them in your mind's eye. Sometimes there is an energy or a feeling, and that guide is connected to that part of that life that which they're helping you. So, for example, I have a guide that helps me when I'm teaching, that's helping me right now when I'm just speaking on this podcast. I always ask for assistance because I know that's what I asked and said. When I'm doing my work, will you be there? Will you help me? Can I speak my truth so that I will help others in their journey? And it's really beautiful. So I always get a sense of that energy and of that guide, which is really wonderful. You might already be experiencing that right now, just when you're listening in and you're just getting a sense. Maybe you were going through a hard time And that hard time, you just got a sense, or you felt, or you knew, or you saw in your mind's eye, there was a guide there. Something was there helping you. Just making you keep going. Just to sort of help you along. Whatever that is and however that way is for you. And that's what guides do. So even though we don't directly sometimes consciously remember them, when we start stepping onto our path, we become a little bit more tuned in. We're becoming more tuned into that part of us, that bigger me, that internal inner voice. And if that's also where our spirit guides, that they lay. And it's really very beautiful. You know, and spirit guides never tell us what to do. And that's not how they work. They assist. They are so respectful of free will. They're not coercive. You know, and if you've had anything like that, or things are getting a little bit skew-whiff, or things are a little bit sort of off, then you might want to have a look at some of the podcasts where we've just been talking about that. When things go off, channeling goes off, voices all of a sudden, you know, you're hearing voices in your head that are not yours, and you might want just to go and check those ones out if you haven't already. And just got to get a sense, because spirit guides or angels, they do not work like that. And even if you are feeling and sensing communication with your guide, it's always done on a very loving way. It's a respectful way. And there is a way for you to get that channel that will feel right to you. It won't be necessarily, unless, of course, your guide is helping you write a book, write podcasts, or, you know, not podcasts, but a blog rather, or you're channeling information. That will always be to the highest good of yourself and to others. And if it isn't, that is just something where you just need to be in tune with yourself. But this is a beautiful thing. Spirit guides are there. They love us and they are always helping us. And especially when we ask for assistance, they're on it like a shot. And it's very heartwarming and it's very beautiful and it's quite warming, and a sense of sort of emotion. And I don't know if you ever get a sense or feel that. They really do have our back, because prior to coming into their lives, there are going to be areas of our lives that are going to be challenging. They are going to be difficult, because they're the bits where we grow. And they're the bits that will help and that will guide us. And that kind of leads us on to sort of really to try and find out, well, who are guides? You know, what have you noticed or what have you found out in your journey to date who guides really are? Well, the beautiful thing is that spirit guides are just like you and I. They have done the physical life. They know exactly what it feels like to be here. Like what we said, we come in, we forget, because that's what it is. It's a school here on our planet. We are learning all the time. We feel separated. And then we embark on our spiritual journey. We go on that road of discovery. You know, we start getting interested maybe in metaphysical, or we start tapping into source energy, learning how to meditate. Might be yoga. You know, whatever way that we've sort of got to where we've got, you know, it's really beautiful that we go on that road. But guides have done that journey too. They have lived the physical human flesh. You know, the clonk, as I call it, of the physical body, where there is limitations, where we get stuck. You know, we're not sort of operating on full capacity, you know. There is that part of us that is here to learn. Learn through experiences that are not so good, and learn through experiences, or we do things that are not with love, and we take, you know, the consequences of that, and then we learn from that each time that we come back here. So spirit guides have lived a life. They've walked the walk, you know. They've done what you and I are doing right now. What spirit guides have chosen to do, and their level of progression of where they are in their spiritual journey, have chosen now to help from a spirit side, but to guide and be assigned to a particular person to help them in their lives. So it's really wonderful that they're serving in that capacity. And it's really beautiful just how these wonderful spirit beings that we all are outside of the physical. And there is just so much that is done when we're home in the spirit realm. You know, and I don't know if you've had a chance to sort of do a little bit of, you know, just finding out, well, what goes on in the spirit realm. You know, there is just so much order, so much learning. The library, hence the Akashic Records Library. And if you haven't listened to Michael Newton, where he talks, and again through hypnosis was able to find out the bit of, you know, what does a person do before they come, or a spirit do before they come into the life? So life between lives. What do we get up to? What do we do? And that is fascinating. You know, there is just so much learning, so much growth. And it's all done with love, because that's what it's about here. Coming and living life with love, treating each other with respect. You know, whatever's happened in a previous life where we might have hurt the person, you know, coming back again and working through that. I have seen that time and time again with the Akashic reading sessions for when past lives come up, when looking at a soul and how many lives a soul has had with that particular person, that loved one, and also with the QHHT, that quantum healing hypnosis, where we come back and we're with that person again. You know, and our guides are supporting, they're helping us with that. So it's really quite incredible. They are here to assist, not to tell you what to do, because they respect that. You know, sometimes we're here, sometimes we do want to be told, what do I do? Help me out. Well, they will always guide you and assist you rather than telling you what to do, because they respect that part of you. So we've learned a little bit about these inner guides. The reason why they're referenced as inner guides, because they are helping you in your everyday personal life. They're helping you with whatever capacity, might be with a family member, work, life, whatever area that is. And you might now start to get a sense of that, what that feels, what that looks like, the areas that you might be struggling with. You will have a helper there assisting you. They'll be guiding you. You might already be tuning into that. Or maybe this space is what is just now going to help you just start filtering through now that they're there, that love is there. That's what you've put in place, which is really empowering. Because like we said, sometimes we think we're here all alone, we're doing it by ourselves, where that's not the case. There's so much going on, more behind the scenes than we actually are consciously aware of. So what about our outer guides then? Well, this is really fascinating. When I started to sort of have this information filter through for my own personal self, and when I was starting to learn this, I just thought this was incredible. Because just like the inner guides, they've had experienced the physical, they knew what it's like to be here. So has the outer guides. But these outer guides are old souls. They have been doing it time after time after time. They have grown in their experience. So the outer means that they're less directly involved with your physical going-ons, with your inner guides. So it's almost like a little bit of a communication going on, a little bit of toing and froing with the outer guides and with your inner guides. Like I said, you can have between 4, 6, sometimes I've seen 8 guides. And like I was made reference, sometimes a guide comes on specifically when there might be something that you need to do, or that you're having difficulty do, or you just need that extra help. That guide will be with you on a temporary basis, and that guide will then leave your original group of guides that are going to be staying with you. And incidentally, this is never done in a conscious, cognizant way where we go, right, I want a guide on board now. It's very beautiful because that part of you, the bigger me, that higher self, that part of you brings that additional help on. So going back to a little bit like what I was saying then, you've got the inner guides and these outer guides. These outer guides are old souls. They've been doing this millenniums, where they have really been assisting mankind, and they don't work on a one-to-one basis, so they'll be helping others, and they're coordinating a lot, and they're very specific. So the outer guides are more like a set 7 of guides, and essentially they've all got very specific roles, and I think you might find this really fascinating and very comforting, and also give you a little bit of food for thought of how our lives are going and when we get on our personal journey. Because there is a guide that coordinates the inner and outer. You know, if we were to ever sort of put a title to this, I guess this is a guide that's in charge, if you like, and coordinates when additional guides will come on, masters and teachers, and basically is in control and is very much attached to your higher self. And when you think about that for me, that blows my mind. There is so much structure and thought that goes into a physical life. So closely with that guide, on the outer guide, you've also got another guide that is pretty much is in charge of your soul memory. The appropriate time on your physical journey right now for you to start remembering who you are, connecting to that part of you. And this is really interesting, you know, because you might have had a period of your time, and I certainly had mine in my 20s, where I wasn't so conscious and connected to that part of me, but I knew something didn't feel right. And it's almost like I was searching. So it might mean that you've got a little bit of hindsight here now, and you might be just sort of like, you know, the memory and the cogs are turning a little bit for you, you know, compared to what you know now, because we're all learning, whether it's physical stuff or on our spiritual journey, just what you know now compared to what you did maybe 5 years ago, or maybe even a year ago. That this guide in the outer guide is really sort of in charge of opening that for your higher self, for the highest good of you, to start remembering that soul level memory. And closely related to this is a guide that looks at the most divine time for you, to have these experiences. So they're working pretty much together for the most appropriate experiences when that is to have. When we look at this maybe in the physical life, what that looks like, maybe 20s to 30s, depending on how old you are. The experiences of what I had in my 20s, the experiences I've got now, where I can handle them now because of what I know now. So there's so much thought that has been put in that things just don't come flooding in randomly, that there is pretty much a divine timing for that. And then we move into another guide, this fourth guide on the outer guide, where it's all about karma, resolving, if you like, unfinished business that perhaps happened when you were with your, let's say for argument's sake, your husband in your previous life, and together now you're back as sisters, because that's how it is. That's how we do this. We come back, we change gender roles, but what went down in that life is now we're experiencing it, and we are working with that guide. That guide is helping us to resolve the dynamic that might have been with you in the previous life that's still playing out for you right now. I have seen that time and time again, where we hold patterns. It's almost like the soul remembers what went down. This can be very, very true for difficult relationships where you can't put your finger on what it is that you've done. This can be a very incredible moment where you understand, right, this is not just about now. This is about something, that has been down previously, and we're here now on a family level to sort this out. So that guide is pretty much helping you. Whatever went down before, whatever was there, that this is now revisited and it's done with love. So closely relating to that, we also have a guide on our outer guide that is pretty much facilitating our talents and connects us to that creative part. We see that in the world around us, whether that be art, singing, whatever it is, that there is that creative aspect of ourselves, and how some will bring this through in the life, and how we bring that out to the world. So that's really incredible, that how we connect to that. And there is a guide that is helping us to do that. So the next two guides are really interesting. So you have a guide that is your guardian. Now what that means is that he's looking after you until you transition. Now I know for me, when I first started get to really understand this, and you might have to sit with this yourself, in terms of there's so much structure of coming into the life. So if there is a spirit guide that is guarding us until we leave the life, then is our life planned when we go out? Now you might need to sit with that yourself and start getting thinking about that. But you have a guide assigned to you until it's the divine time for you to leave. And I know that opens up a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts behind there, and I'm going to let you sit with that. And I'm still working through what that means and how that is. So it's really quite incredible. Now, the last guide on this outer guide, if you like, framework, and that's helping us in the physical life, is your astral guide. Now, what this means is that every night you go to sleep, your body sleeps. The soul doesn't need to sleep. So you have a guide that accompanies you whilst you travel back to the spirit realm. So hence we have the dream. we dream every night, and sometimes these dreams really mean something. Sometimes we have reoccurring ones, and that's really a fascinating subject. But you have a guide that helps you with your astral travel every single night. And it's also quite interesting from the Akashic records when I've done readings and looked at that, when sometimes this is interrupted, and how that will look at for a person. They will be waking up exhausted when they are not transitioning. And that's one of the beautiful things. Once we're aware of that, then we can ask assistance from that guide to help us then to travel and to help us sleep better, so that when we wake up, we are not drained, we're not exhausted. So how is that for you? How did you find that? Is this the first time you're hearing that? I know when I heard that, I was really, I just thought it was fantastic. Just at what has been put in place. We do not stumble into the physical life and then have a life and then be stranded here all alone, which is sometimes how we can feel. But in actual fact, you have put in place these personal guides with Source, with your masters, your teachers, with such divine, loving beings, to ensure that you will experience whatever it is that you need, whatever it is that your life lessons are, your theme. But you're not going to be doing this alone. Now, this might have come at a really important time for you. And even just sort of talking about it now, I just feel that love from Source, that love from our guides. And it's always a timely reminder that we're not alone in our physical lives. When we start looking into our spirit guides, and especially when we start remembering just this level of soul memory, it's like pulling back the veil, and we see the love that there is there for us. Now, what does that mean for you and I? Can we communicate with guides? Well, you're communicating all the time. Sometimes we're just sort of not really aware of it until we start stepping onto that sort of more contemplative spiritual journey, when we start quieting the mind. Now, for some, that might be in their yoga practice, when they meditate, or when you use the Usui connecting to Source energy, when you absolutely then, no hit and miss with that, you go straight into that altered, beautiful state of connecting with Source. Or for some, it might be walking, when you go and walk by water, the river, just being out in nature. And it's really beautiful, because those are the frequencies where, when I've talked about this in quite a few podcasts, I've just talked about this in the last one, when we get stuck and when we're struggling with the law of attraction, we're quite reactive in life, we're sort of sitting in that sort of stress and fight and flight, is how we can now put ourselves into the frequency of alpha and theta. We're going in and out of these all the time. It's just like when our heart is beating, pumping the blood all around. It's not sometimes until we give it that thought, that cognizance, then we go, yes, okay, this is happening. And sometimes that might just mean that we just need to be aware of how we are sensing these guides, sensing this energy. And it will always be to the highest good of you and for others. They do not work lower than that. And if it is anything like that, we come to sometimes experience, you might just want to have a look at the other podcasts where I go into a little bit about that, because we will be alerted. There'll be that part of you, the higher self, who will saying to you, something's not right. Just be aware. And it's really wonderful, because they love us, they're guiding us and protecting us all the time. So can we communicate? Yes, we can. I've learned over the years myself to just tune in to each of them. You might already be doing that. But if you're not aware, and this might be something that you've just thought, this is exactly, what I needed to hear now. Like I said, for you, find the way that works for you. Being in nature, walk, meditation, or whether that's your yoga practice, whatever that is for you, is to connect in, get into that frequency. And your higher self will guide you. That higher self, that part of you, the bigger me, which is guiding you already, will help you. And the most incredible and wonderful thing I always remind people is ask them for assistance. My goodness, they are there. They are always there. And just ask them. They respect free will. They're not in your life sort of over you all the time. They're there respectfully. They're guiding you, and sometimes they nudge us. They really do. If we're really sort of like, maybe we're sort of not quite on the path, or we're really sort of getting, and I've experienced that. Maybe you have too, where you get a real push back to get you back on that path. But the beautiful thing is when we ask them for assistance, when we ask, please help me with this, A, B, and C, they are there. Sometimes I ask, just let me know that it's you, so that I get a sort of feedback, and they are so loving that they do that, so that that this guide is helping me with this area of life, and I feel it, I know it, and I sense it. So they're always here to help you, and it's really always kind of when we're feeling a little bit vulnerable, when we're feeling a little bit low. Those are the times that we just need to remind ourselves that they are there, and that you are not alone in this physical life. Even when things around us are not feeling so great, or we don't feel so good, they will help us. And a beautiful thing I've learned myself is to, whatever intention, whatever it is that we want, ask them to help us with it. Because they knew, they saw, and you were aware before you got into the physical life of some of the things and some of the, if you like, the stop gaps where you would just need assistance, that you would just need that additional help. And of course, it's always with this kind of, it's always about inner work. It's not about going outside of ourselves. It's all within. And this is where we can hear that part. This is when we can hear our guides. Just that little whisper, just that little, well, this is where we need to go now. They'll guide us, and they do that with love. So I hope this has sort of really helped you. Maybe this is what you just needed to hear. And it's just nice to remind ourselves and to remember that we're not here battling it out and life has no meaning and we're just in it and then we're out. They are with us when we come in, they're with us during the physical life, and we are met once we leave our body. And that is really incredible and also very helpful when we become really unwell. And, when sometimes we can be a little bit concerned, a little bit worried about what happens when we die, And it's really amazing. And I'll direct you back to, if you haven't already heard Michael Newton, the Soul Journey, where he talks all about this, what happens when we die, and what do we do in the bits? What do we do when we're not in the physical life? There's a lot of learning and a lot of preparation and a lot of work that goes in, before we come into our lives. So I hope that you found this information warming, helpful, and useful. And maybe this might be the very thing that you needed to hear, so that you're able now to just move forward, or whatever it is that makes you feel better and get on and move into the next phase of your journey. So please tune in to more topics. We're going to be talking about real life stuff. And don't forget to subscribe. And please do always head over to the website, have a look at some of the things, and take a look at the online Reiki courses, because they're really designed to help you to really sort of focus in on that part of you, connect with source, and from there just takes that hit and miss out when we meditate, so that we're able to really tune into that part of us. So I look forward to speaking to you next time, and until then, do take care, and bye for now.